All right, class. First off, as always, good day. Before you guys even press the button to go fast forward, you guys really should not for this warm up, because the question is going to ask you which of these four pictures really uh, shows the struggle of the people during the Great Depression. The thing is, if you fast forward it, you're not going to hear the story. You're just going to base it off the image. And if you don't have the facts behind the image, it's just an image and your mind's going to make up some story, or you're just going to take it at face value and you're not going to understand what the picture, what it means and what's behind that story. Because trust me, each one of these pictures, there's a really sad story behind it. Okay, so let's go through the first one. Okay, well, first off, let's go through the objectives and all that stuff. Again, we're going over Roosevelt's administration. Okay, so here are the warm-up pictures. Okay, so again, wait till the end and then make your decision. Okay, so in this picture, as you can see, this is the picture of that migrant mother I showed you guys last class. Like I said, excuse me, in my last class, this lady, her car broke down. She couldn't fix it. She's stranded in the middle of nowhere. She made this temporary like house out of, you can see it right there. It's made of like blankets and the sheets from like a for like a bed. You know, there's not a town for miles, and in those towns there's like no jobs. So this lady has like no food, nowhere to go. If I can't remember if her husband was, is he dead or if he left, I can't remember at this moment. Um, but yeah, she's stuck, totally stuck with these four kids, and you can see one of them's a baby. Okay. Now in this picture, this is something I really didn't talk about too much. Maybe next year I'll probably explain a little bit more on to that kind of stuff, because the thing is though, some parents couldn't take care of their kids, and they would ask family members, some of that, hey, can you take my son, take my daughter, take all the kids. If you can't take all of them, at least take one. You know, that way the parents knew, hey, this kid's gonna be taken care of. They're gonna have food, they're gonna have a place to stay, things like that. But if a parent couldn't take care of their kids, sometimes they did that. They actually sold them. And like a student asked in class, what they would sell all of them. The hope was that maybe they could get like a lot of money for one kid, and then they could not sell the other ones and keep them together, and that way they could pay their rent, the heat in their house, buy some food, things like that, and they'll be able to take care of the rest of the kids and just let that one go. But as you can see from that mom, she's covering her face. She's ashamed of what she basically has to do, and it's not that she's doing this because she wants to get rid of them. Is she knows she can't take care of them anymore. She can't feed them. They might be going homeless, and she figures might as well sell them to somebody who will probably take care of them, feed them, give them a place to live. It's a tough decision. This next one is basically what these signs that they would have outside of towns. As you can see, it says jobless men keep going. We can't take care of our own. These guys, who knows how long they've been walking? Guys, some guys walked hundreds, if not thousands of miles from town to town trying to find jobs, something, anything. And like what I told you guys, 15 million people looking for jobs. Who knows how long they traveled, you know? And just imagine, in Fresno where you guys live, there's a sign like that telling people, no, 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 don't even bother stopping. I don't care where you're from. You could be from down the road. You could be from across the country. Keep going. We have no jobs for you. Go to Selma. Go to, Hanford. Go to Visalia. Go to Tulare. Go to Exeter. Go Bakersfield for all we care. Just not here. So you see, like this one guy looking at the sign, he's just reading it. The other guys just keep walking. So again, 15 million people in our country were looking for jobs, trying to find something. This next picture is of a World War I veteran. Now, if you remember, these guys lived in trenches during World War One. So trenches, remember, there are holes in the ground and stuff like that. So this guy basically goes to a city park, digs a trench, and uses trash to make his home. So if you really look at the pictures, there's just pieces of like cardboard, plywood, some of that. This guy also doesn't have enough food, so he's trying to grow his own. That's where you see that little square in the front. He's trying to grow his own food because he doesn't have money for food. So yeah. So those are the four pictures. So which one of these, again, the stranded mother who had nowhere to go, no help, no money, the mom who's selling her kids, or forced to sell her kids, the men who have to walk trying to find a job somewhere in this country, or the veteran who basically made a home because, again, he's homeless, makes his home out of trash and a hole in the ground. So, which one of these pictures, these four pictures, do you think really shows the struggle of people that went through the Great Depression? Okay. So, again, there's no real right or wrong answer. You just tell me which one, in your opinion, really shows. Now that you know the story, the background story of each one of these pictures, which one do you think really shows the struggle that people went through? Okay. So think about it, pause the video, write your response, and don't forget to explain why you chose that one. Okay. And once you do that, you know, um, you're good. Okay. So pause the video, write your response, because we're moving on in three, two, one. So, women during the Great Depression had to do something that their moms and other women in the past really didn't have to do, and that was get a job. You know, some ladies in the past, before the Great Depression, they might do a side hustle, making some goods, baking bread, stuff like that, some desserts, washing clothing, work as a maid for several hours a day, but nothing like a consistent job, you know, all day, every day type of thing. But now, because of the Great Depression, a second income was needed to help keep the family together, pay for the rent, pay for food, pay for the heating, electricity, and stuff like that. And it's because of that there was a huge decline in marriages from 1929 until 1939. There was a 22% drop because women, not men, women found it a lot easier to survive the Great Depression if they were single, as opposed to being married. And it didn't matter if they were married and they had kids or didn't have kids. If they were married, they struggled. You know, they were struggling one way or another with or without kids in the marriage, just as long as they were married. So a lot of girls were basically saying, yeah, I'm going to stay single. I think I could survive quite a bit longer by myself. Now, if there was any role model that women could look up to and say, like, you know what, I want to be like this chick, it was Eleanor Roosevelt, the first lady of the United States. Now, I don't say this all too much about certain people in history, um, because, again, I believe that it's a term that should be reserved for certain people. And I'm going to say it for her. Eleanor Roosevelt was a total badass. Okay. She was very smart. She wasn't one of those dainty girls. If, like, she was in discussion, the guy said, "Shut up, you don't know what you're talking about." She wouldn't cower down and be, "Oh, okay, No, she would stand on her own 2 feet and be like, "Okay, you know what, buddy? You want to have a discussion about this? Let's have a discussion." And she'd bust out facts. She was a well-read, well-educated woman who could back up an argument with facts. you know Now, I said it in class, and I'll say it again, and it doesn't just apply to women, girls. It applies to guys too. But from my experience in life, a lot of times when girls have arguments with anybody, other girls, guys, whoever, they tend to get louder. Their volume gets louder, and they think, oh, because I'm getting louder, I'm winning this argument. When in reality, they're not. They're just shouting and they're saying things that have nothing to do with what the argument's about. Um, Eleanor was not like that. She stuck to the facts and basically won arguments that way. Now, she was not only the president's wife, she was also his advisor. She would tell him, I think you should do this. I think you should do that. When it comes to this, we should do this as opposed to that. You know, she uh, was a lot of times right about things. We know that now because of letters she wrote and letters and things FDR wrote down and stuff like that. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later, especially one particular program which she went personally to see and endorsed. And again, like I said, we'll talk about that in like another like couple weeks. But one of the things she told the president, her husband, you need to hire more women. And he's like, okay, sure. So the first woman to hold an executive cabinet position was Frances Perkins. Okay. Now here's the thing. Still to this day, girls do not make the exact same as guys do. They make a little bit less. Okay. I believe right now it's like something like 92, 94 cents for every dollar a man makes. You know, um, it might be less, but it's not that much less. Unlike at this time, girls were making like 30 cents for every dollar a man was making. The distinction of pay was really bad, really separated. But the thing is, girls were able to get jobs that were typically stable jobs. Things like nurses, teachers, being domestic workers, maids, things like that. The problem is this, it brought a stigma to a lot of people, especially with the things like nurses, especially guys. It wasn't until more recent times that when people saw a guy and they were like, "Oh, are you a doctor?" I'm like, "No, I'm a nurse." Before, back in the day, people would laugh like, "You're a nurse, you're a guy nurse," because the job of a nurse was seen as a woman's job. The man is the doctor. Girls are nurses. But as time has gone on, we've come to kind of accept that hey, guys can be nurses too. But like I said, typically it was seen as a woman's job. Now, African Americans during the Depression, they had it pretty bad, especially in the southern states. Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, places like that. They were really hurting down there. And the only jobs they could get were basically farm working and being domestic servants, being a maid and stuff like that. Um, and neither of those jobs put money into the Social Security system. So when they got old enough and they're like, well, I want to take out Social Security, they can't because they didn't put into it. So they had no safety net. And the programs that were available, the people who were in charge in the South for those things were racist. So they didn't look towards African Americans like, oh, we should give these guys jobs. They said, no, you stick to the fields. We'll give these to the white people down here. You know. So thing is, too, you have to remember this. Roosevelt was a smart man. He really was. And he realized I can't truly understand what African Americans are going through because I'm not one of them. And when I made that statement in class, it's like I told them, if you've ever lost a grandparent or a parent, and you have people, they'll come up to you and say, "Oh, I know what you're going through." It's like, really, you've lost your mom, dad, or grandma, grandpa, whoever it may have been, and they're like, "No." Well, how did you know? I didn't know what I'm going through. You don't, you know. People try to say things to comfort other people, like, "Yeah, I know what you're going through," but they don't really know. And that's what Roosevelt basically knows. He doesn't know what the black people are going through in the United States at that time. He had no idea. Why? Because he's not an African American. He has no idea what they're experiencing. He has no idea, the troubles and tribulations that they have been going through. So what he does is he creates a black cabinet, quote unquote black cabinet. And the head of this is this lady right here, right there, Mary McLeod, and I'm gonna kill this last name, Bethune. Bethune. And basically he's telling her, I need you to help me. Okay. I want to help out African Americans, but I don't know what they're going through. I don't know if these programs are going to help. So help me. And she basically told him, well, okay, you know all those programs you have, the TVA, the WPA, the SEC, and all these places? He's like, yeah. She goes, why don't you put an African American in each one of those programs as an advisor? And those advisors will then say, hey, you know what? This program isn't helping African Americans, or it is helping African Americans, and this is how, or this is how it can help more African Americans. He's like, okay, let's do that. And because of that, the number of African Americans working for the government triples. Now, women will continue to work up until the 1940s. But the thing is, several states tried to kind of stop women from working. These were restrictions that they put on them, and this was known as a marriage bar. Okay. It basically said that if you're a woman, you should be home. You should be taking care of your children, taking care of your family, your husband, and stuff like that. And what they would do is the jobs that the women lost, they would try to give it to a man, you know, and also single. If anything, if they were going to give a job to a girl, they would try to find a single girl. So a lot of women who were married would hide their marriage. They take off their wedding ring and stuff like that, and they made sure not to wear it around town or anything like that, because if somebody went to this grocery store and they saw that one of them was wearing a ring, they might spill the beans like, hey, I saw so and so have a wedding ring, you know, um, and their hope would be like, hey, maybe they'll fire her and they'll hire, my brother, my cousin, whomever, So yeah, because again, people are hurting and they want to take care, especially of their own family. Now, the reason why companies did this stuff was mainly because the older women who were married and had been there for a while, they're they had to pay them a lot more. And the companies want to hire young and cheaper workers. And like I said in class, let's say somebody, random person, is a new teacher, right? It's their first year, things like that, right? I'm in my 16th year, about to go into my 17th year, all right? Who's going to get paid more? Me, right? Because I have more experience. I've taught a lot of schools, I've taught a lot of different grades. I have more knowledge and stuff like that, more experience. That other person is barely starting. So they would fire me because I have to get paid more. And they'd want that person because, for one, they could pay them less. And two, that person's young. So they're going to stay with them at that company a lot longer than I would because I'm already old, you know? So that's why they do it. Now, things in the economy start going better and better and better, but it wasn't like leaps and bounds. It was little by little every year. Things are getting better. But the United States would not get out of the Great Depression completely until 1942 because something happens to the United States at the end of 1941. And that situation, that incident, not only changed America, but changed the world completely. And we'll get into that next class. So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoy this lesson. So with that being said, guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later, okay?